Unknown to her, Benita and her friends sneak into the classroom and stole Chioma's textbooks and assignment book. With malicious intent, they tossed them into the waste bin, hoping to sabotage Chioma's academic progress. Once upon a time, in a small city in Nigeria, there lived a girl named Chioma. She was a bright 14-year-old who lived with her mother, Mmasinachi, and her aunt, Glory. They resided in a humble one-room apartment, but their hearts were full of love and hope. Chioma had just started her first year of senior secondary school. Her mother had saved up every penny from her small business to send Chioma to a private school in town for a better education. Even though money was tight, Mmasinachi believed in the power of education to change Chioma's life. On Chioma's first day at her new school, excitement filled the air. She wore her best uniform and carried her books with pride. But as she entered the classroom, she felt a wave of loneliness wash over her. The other kids seemed different, and their eyes held judgment. "Hi, I'm Chioma," she said, trying to make friends. "Who are your parents? Are they rich or poor?" one of the students asked, with a sneer. Chioma's heart sank as she spoke about her late father and her mother's small business. The kids laughed and teased her, making her feel like she didn't belong. She spent the day feeling alone, focusing on her studies and ignoring the hurtful words. As soon as school was over, she hurried home to her mother and aunt to share her feelings. "Mommy, Aunt Glory, today was tough," Chioma said, her voice trembling. "The kids at school were mean to me because we are not rich." Mmasinachi wrapped her arms around Chioma, comforting her. "Don't let their words bring you down, my dear. You are strong and smart, and you belong wherever you choose to be." Aunt Glory nodded in agreement. "Focus on your studies, Chioma. Education is your ticket to a better future." With her mother and aunt's encouragement, Chioma wiped away her tears and nodded. She was determined to prove herself no matter what others said. And so, Chioma's journey to success began, filled with challenges and triumphs. But with the love and support of her family, she knew she could overcome anything that came her way. The next day, Chioma hurried to school, her determination burning bright within her. Though other students arrived in fancy cars, Chioma walked alone, grateful for her mother's love and provision. As she approached the school gate, she noticed a girl her age being dropped off by her mother. There was something about her that caught Chioma's attention, a sense of familiarity. The girl's name was Benita, and she was in the same class as Chioma. Despite the urge to talk to her, Chioma hesitated. But as they entered their classroom, she couldn't resist introducing herself. However, Benita's response was cold and dismissive. "I have heard about you," Benita said with a smirk. "We are not on the same level, so stay away from me." Her friends, Sandra and Betty, joined in, mocking Chioma and calling her names. Chioma's heart sank, but she held her head high and returned to her seat. Then, a girl named Macy approached her, offering an apology on behalf of Benita and her friends. "Don't let them get to you," Macy said kindly. "Benita is spoiled and disrespectful. You should stay away from her." Grateful for Macy's support, Chioma accepted her offer of friendship eagerly. Throughout that day, they laughed and talked during breaks, forming a bond that felt like it had always been there. When school ended, Mercy bid Chioma goodbye and left in her father's car, while Chioma walked home alone. Along the way, she spotted Benita in a fancy car, looking down on her with disdain, but Chioma brushed it off, focusing on the warmth of her new friendship. At home, she excitedly told her mother and Aunt Glory about Mercy and how kind she was. She also shared the hurtful encounter with Benita, but her family's love and encouragement lifted her spirits once again. As they gathered around the small table for dinner, Chioma felt grateful for the love and support that surrounded her. Little did she know, more challenges and adventures awaited her on her journey to success. But with her family by her side and a new friend in Mercy, Chioma felt ready to face whatever came her way. Despite her best efforts to stay away from Benita, Chioma found herself drawn to her presence like a magnet. But each encounter with Benita ended in insults and hurtful words, leaving Chioma feeling discouraged. Even Mercy's attempts to intervene fell on deaf ears, as Benita's loyalty to her spoiled behavior remained steadfast. Benita, along with her friends Sandra and Betty, continued to support her every move, eager to stay in her good grace due to her family's wealth. Chioma struggled to understand why someone could be so mean, but she remained determined to rise above the negativity. One fateful day, Chioma arrived at school with a heavy heart. She had misplaced the money her mother had given her for her fees and couldn't find it anywhere. Desperate and on the verge of tears, she sat alone in a corner, feeling defeated. Mrs. Gloria, Benita's mother, noticed Chioma's distress as she brought Benita to school. Despite Benita's protests, Mrs. Gloria approached Chioma with concern. Chioma hesitated at first, but eventually opened up about her predicament. "Good morning, ma," Chioma said, her voice trembling. "I lost the money my mom gave me for my fees, and I can't go back to her because she doesn't have any more money. I also can't take my test today without making that payment." Mrs. Gloria's heart went out to Chioma, and without hesitation, she offered to help. She took Chioma to the office and made the payment herself. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Chioma hugged Mrs. Gloria tightly, thanking her for her kindness. Later in class, Chioma approached Benita to express her gratitude for her mother's help, but instead of receiving thanks, Chioma was met with anger and hostility. "You dirty beggar! How dare you come crawling to my family for help?" Benita snapped, pushing Chioma aside before storming off. Heartbroken and confused, Chioma turned to Mercy for comfort. Mercy reminded her to focus on the kindness she had received from Mrs. Gloria rather than Benita's cruel words. Back at home, Chioma couldn't bring herself to eat lunch. When her mother noticed her distress, Chioma poured out her heart, recounting the day's events from losing her money to Mrs. Gloria's intervention and Benita's harsh reaction. Mmasinachi listened with a heavy heart, feeling pained by her daughter's struggles, but she offered words of comfort and encouragement. reminding Chioma of her worth and resilience. The next day at school, excitement buzzed in the air as Mr. Smith, the senior math teacher, entered the classroom. He announced that it was time for their test and asked the students to settle down. Chioma's heart raced with anticipation as she prepared for the challenge ahead. As the test began, Chioma focused intently, her pencil flying across the paper. Within 5 minutes, she confidently submitted her paper. Much to the surprise of her classmates, Mr. Smith glanced through her work and smiled, impressed by her speed and accuracy. He applauded her and asked her to leave the class, leaving Benita and her friends sitting with jealousy and anger. After the test, Benita and her friends gathered in the cafeteria, their faces twisted with resentment. Benita vented her frustration to her friends, expressing her disdain for Chioma and her actions during tests. Her friends nodded in agreement, offering their support and assuring her that they would come up with a plan to deal with Chioma. Meanwhile, in the classroom, Mercy congratulated Chioma on her impressive performance during the test. She couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction at seeing the looks on Benita and her friends' faces. Chioma grinned, grateful for Mercy's friendship and support. The following day, Chioma arrived at school early and decided to grab breakfast at the cafeteria before class. Unknown to her, Benita and her friends sneaked into the classroom and stole Chioma's textbooks and assignment book. With malicious intent, they tossed them into the waste bin, hoping to sabotage Chioma's academic progress. However, Mercy witnessed their deceitful act and quickly intervened. She retrieved Chioma's books from the bin and returned them to her bag before anyone noticed. During the book submission later that day, Chioma handed in all her assignments, much to Benita's shock and frustration. Benita couldn't understand how Chioma managed to submit all her work despite the attempts to sabotage her. Fuming with anger, she began to suspect that Chioma possessed some kind of supernatural power. Later that day, Mercy confronted Benita, warning her to never try to harm Chioma again. Benita's smile faltered, but she remained defiant, refusing to acknowledge Mercy's warning. As Chioma approached, curious about the exchange, Mercy filled her in on what had transpired. Though grateful for Mercy's intervention, Chioma couldn't shake off the feeling of unease. She knew that Benita and her friends wouldn't give up easily, but with Mercy by her side, she felt stronger and more determined than ever to stand tall against the bullies. With each passing day, Chioma's resolve grew, fueled by the support of her family and friends. As weeks passed, Chioma continued to excel at school, earning praise from her teachers and filling her mother and aunt Glory with pride. Despite Benita's persistent hostility, Chioma remained determined to reach out and make amends, even in the face of rejection. At Benita's home, tension simmered as she voiced her resentment towards Chioma to her parents. However, her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Clinton, urged her to let go of her animosity and focus on her studies instead. Benita grew upset, lashing out at her father and bringing up Mrs. Gloria's act of kindness towards Chioma. Curious about the situation, Mr. Clinton asked his wife to explain what had happened. Mrs. Clinton recounted Chioma's predicament and her compassionate response, but Benita, unwilling to listen, insisted on her dislike for Chioma and demanded that her mother refrain from helping such a person in the future. Mr. Clinton intervened, urging Benita to reconsider her stance and reminding her of the importance of compassion and generosity towards those in need. But Benita's heart remained close to his words, consumed by her bitterness and resentment. The next day at school, Benita distributed birthday invitation cards to everyone in their class except for Chioma and Mercy. While Mercy brushed it off, uninterested in attending, Chioma felt a pang of sadness at being excluded. She confided in Mercy, revealing that it was also her birthday and expressing a desire to attend Benita's party to celebrate together. Mercy cautioned Chioma against attending, warning her of potential embarrassment. But Chioma couldn't shake off the longing to be included, to bridge the gap between her and Benita. At home, Chioma sat with Aunt Glory, pouring out her heart about Benita's continued mistreatment and the pain of being excluded from her birthday celebration. Aunt Glory listened attentively, offering words of comfort and wisdom. "Chioma, my dear," Aunt Glory began gently, "sometimes people do hurtful things out of their own pain and insecurity. But it's important not to let their actions define you. One day, you will have your own birthday celebration, surrounded by people who love and appreciate you for who you are." Chioma nodded, her eyes glistening with hushed tears. Deep down, she knew Aunt Glory was right, but the desire for acceptance still lingered within her heart. As the first term exams approached, anticipation filled the air at school. Chioma, along with her classmates, prepared diligently for the upcoming exams. When the exams finally commenced, Chioma's hard work paid off, and she performed exceptionally well, earning praises from her teachers and peers alike. However, amidst the academic hustle and bustle, an important date loomed on the horizon: November 30th, the shared birthday of both Benita and Chioma. While Benita anticipated a lavish celebration at her parents' mansion, Chioma felt a pang of sadness knowing she wouldn't be included in the festivities. On the fateful day, Benita adorned herself in a stunning princess dress, surrounded by her friends as they gathered to celebrate her birthday. The atmosphere was filled with laughter and joy as they danced and indulged in delicious treats. Meanwhile, at Chioma's humble abode, she couldn't shake off the desire to attend Benita's party despite the hurtful treatment she had endured. With a heavy heart, Chioma decided to sneak out of the house and make her way to Benita's celebration. However, upon arriving at Benita's house, Chioma was met with fury. Benita, enraged by Chioma's presence, lashed out violently, striking Chioma across the face and causing her harm. It was only when her parents intervened that Benita's outburst was halted and she was reprimanded for her cruel actions. Mrs. Gloria rushed to comfort Chioma, tending to her wounds with care and compassion. Despite the pain she endured, Chioma returned home with a heavy heart, feeling the stench of rejection and betrayal. When Mmasinachi learned of the incident, her anger fled and she was ready to confront Benita's family. However, Aunt Glory intervened, urging restraint and emphasizing on the importance of letting go. Back at Benita's house, her parents summoned her for a serious discussion about her behavior. They implored her to reflect on her actions and understand the consequences of her cruelty towards Chioma. But Benita remained defiant, refusing to acknowledge her wrongdoing and instead lashing out with bitterness and resentment. In a desperate attempt to reach her daughter, Mrs. Gloria pleaded with Benita to let go of her animosity towards Chioma and embrace empathy and kindness instead. But Benita's heart remained closed off, consumed by her own insecurities and prejudices. As the night wore on, Benita's parents felt a sense of despair, unsure of how to break through to their stubborn daughter. They could only hope and pray that someday Benita would learn to love and respect others regardless of their social standing or background. Meanwhile, Chioma lay in bed, nursing her physical and emotional wounds, grappling with the harsh reality of exclusion and discrimination. But amidst the pain, a glimmer of hope remained, the hope that one day Benita will realize the error of her ways and choose to walk the path of kindness and understanding. The following Monday, the tension between Chioma and Benita reached its boiling point. Benita, sitting with anger, confronted Chioma, pushing her roughly and issuing a stern warning to stay out of her way. Chioma, feeling a mix of fear and sadness, attempted to apologize for the incident at Benita's birthday party. But Benita cut her off and stormed away. Despite Benita's hostility, Chioma remained focused on her studies as the first term came to an end. To her delight, she emerged as the top student in her class, a testament to her hard work and dedication. Meanwhile, Benita faced disappointment as she received poor grades, much to the dismay of her parents. Back at Chioma's house, celebration filled the air as Mmasinachi, Chioma, and Aunt Glory rejoiced over Chioma's academic achievement. However, the mood was somber at Benita's house as her parents scolded her for her dismissal performance. Overwhelmed with shame and frustration, Benita fled to her room, her heart heavy with regret. During the school vacation, tragedy struck as Mmasinachi fell ill and was rushed to the hospital. Aunt Glory received the distressing news and immediately sprang into action. However, The doctor delivered grim news. Mmasinachi required urgent surgery costing 200,000 naira, a sum Aunt Glory couldn't afford. In a desperate bid for help, Chioma turned to Benita's family, hoping for compassion and assistance. But her hope were dashed when Benita carelessly pushed her out of their house and forbade the gatekeeper from ever letting Chioma in again. Heartbroken and scared, Chioma sat outside, tears streaming down her face. Fortunately, Mrs. Gloria returned home and saw Chioma sitting at the gate. She was concerned and rushed to her rescue. After hearing Chioma's plight, she wasted no time in rushing her to the hospital, where she paid for Mmasinachi's surgery. With gratitude in their hearts, Chioma and Aunt Glory thanked Mrs. Gloria for her timely intervention. Back at Benita's house, Mrs. Gloria wasted no time in scolding Benita for her callous behavior towards Chioma. Benita, overcome with guilt and shame, retreated to her room, tears staining her cheeks, her heart heavy with remorse. She grappled with the realization of her actions and the pain she had caused others. As days passed, Mmasinachi recovered from her illness and was discharged from the hospital. Her family, grateful for her restored health, determined to express their gratitude, they paid a visit to Benita's family, seeking to thank them for their kindness and assistance. However, Benita, consumed by her own feelings of inadequacy and bitterness, refused to come out of her room, unable to face the people she had wronged. Mrs. Gloria, ever gracious and compassionate, welcomed Chioma's family with open arms, expressing her joy at their visit and reassuring them of her continued support. As Chioma's family departed, their hearts filled with gratitude for Mrs. Gloria's kindness, Benita remained secluded in her room, wrestling with her inner turmoil. Despite her initial resistance, she couldn't shake off the feeling of remorse, longing for redemption and the chance to make amends. At Benita's house, tragedy struck as Benita suddenly slumped and was rushed to the hospital. The news spread quickly, reaching Chioma and her family. Overwhelmed with grief and concern, Chioma raced to the hospital, her heart heavy with worry. Upon arriving at the hospital, Chioma overheard Mr. and Mrs. Clinton discussing Benita's condition in a nearby room. Their words sent a chill down Chioma's spine, and she learned the shocking truth. Benita was not their biological daughter, and they were desperately searching for a blood donor whose blood type matched hers. Filled with determination and compassion, Chioma raced back home, begging her mother to come to Benita's aid. Mmasinachi, moved by her daughter's plea, followed Chioma to the hospital, where they found Benita's parents anxiously waiting for help. Without hesitation, Mmasinachi volunteered to donate her blood, hoping to save Benita's life. After being tested, she was confirmed as a match and selflessly donated her blood to Benita. Mr. and Mrs. Clinton expressed their heartfelt gratitude, thanking Mmasinachi and Chioma for their life-saving act of kindness. Despite the pain and hurt Benita had caused her, Chioma refused to leave her side, staying by her bedside at the hospital. When Benita regained consciousness, she was surprised to see Chioma there and questioned her presence. Chioma, her eyes brimming with tears of relief, rushed to inform Benita's parents of her awakening. They hurried to their daughter's side, explaining how Chioma and her mother had come to her rescue, saving her life with their selfless act. Overwhelmed with emotion, Benita felt a pang of guilt for the pain she had caused Chioma and expressed her gratitude for her forgiveness and compassion. She apologized to Chioma, acknowledging her wrongdoing and promising to make amends. In a heartfelt embrace, Chioma and Benita forged a newfound bond of friendship, their hearts filled with forgiveness and understanding. As Benita was discharged from the hospital, Chioma couldn't contain her joy, knowing that their journey together was just beginning. With newfound strength and resilience, Chioma and Benita embarked on a new chapter in their lives, determined to overcome any obstacles together, united by the bonds of compassion and forgiveness. As they left the hospital hand in hand, their hearts brimming with hope and optimism, Chioma and Benita knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, supporting and uplifting each other every step of the way. And as they walked into the sunset, their friendship blossomed, a beacon of light in a world filled with darkness. Chioma and Benita's friendship blossomed, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. They spent countless hours together, sharing stories, dreams, and laughter, no longer bound by the constraints of social status. One day, as they sat chatting in Benita's room, Benita confided in Chioma about her nagging worry regarding her parents' inability to donate blood at the hospital. "Does it mean they are not my biological parents?" Benita asked, her voice tinged with anxiety. Chioma's heart clenched at the question, her mind racing with conflicting emotions. Unable to bear the weight of the truth, she averted her gaze, struggling to find the words to comfort her friend. But Benita, perceptive as ever, noticed Chioma unease and pressed her for answers. "Chioma, please tell me the truth," Benita pleaded, her eyes searching Chioma's face for a sign. But Chioma, caught in a web of guilt and fear, hesitated, unsure of how to respond. Frustrated by Chioma's silence, Benita stormed out of the room, hurt by her friend's unwillingness to confide in her. That night, Chioma lay awake, tormented by guilt and regret, knowing she had let her friend down. Determined to make amends, Chioma resolved to confront Benita with the truth the next day. As she arrived at Benita's house, her heart heavy with apprehension, she prepared herself to face the consequences of her silence. With a deep breath, Chioma approached Benita, her eyes filled with remorse as she recounted the conversation she had overheard at the hospital. Benita listened in stone silence, her world crumbling around her as the truth sank in. Feeling betrayed and abandoned, Benita confronted her parents, demanding answers. After much hesitation, they confessed the painful truth. Benita was adopted because they couldn't have children of their own. Overwhelmed by a whirlwind of emotions, Benita begged her parents to help her find her biological parents. Reluctantly, they agreed, realizing that it was time for Benita to uncover the secret of her past. Together, they embarked on a journey back to Enugu, the city where Benita was adopted. Seeking answers, they sought out Nostiti, the only link to Benita's mysterious past. Days later, Nostiti arrived, her presence stirring a mix of anticipation and anxiety. With bated breath, Benita and her parents listened as Nostiti revealed crucial information about Benita's biological parents. She led them to a family house in Enugu, where they inquired about Mr. Sunday, Benita's biological father. However, their hopes were dashed when they learned that he had passed away years ago, leaving behind a wife and daughter who had relocated to the city. They gave them their address at the city. As they left the house, their hearts heavy with disappointment. Benita's mind raced with unanswered questions. Who were her biological parents? Did she have siblings? And most importantly, why had they given her up for adoption? Despite the uncertainty that lay ahead, Benita knew that she was no longer alone. With her adoptive parents by her side and Chioma's unwavering support, she felt ready to confront whatever the future held, knowing that the journey to self-discovery would ultimately lead her to the answers she sought. And as they walked away from the family house, their steps guided by hope and determination, Benita and her family knew that their quest for truth had only just begun. As Benita and her parents set out to find her biological parents with the address provided, they were taken aback when they arrived at a familiar site of Chioma's house. Confusion clouded their minds until Nostiti spotted Mmasinachi and called out to her. Mmasinachi and Chioma, surprised to see them, approached with curiosity, asking if everything was alright. With tears streaming down her face, Nostiti fell to her knees and begged for forgiveness. She confessed to her deceitful actions, revealing that Mmasinachi had given birth to twin babies, but she had deliberately taken one away before Mmasinachi regained consciousness after surgery. Shocked and devastated, Mmasinachi recalled her memories of expecting twins, but only having one afterward. Tears flowed freely as she embraced Benita tightly, the realization of their familiar bond finally sinking in. Benita cried alongside her newfound mother, and Chioma joined them, overwhelmed by the emotional reunion. Grateful for the care and love Benita had received from Mr. and Mrs. Clinton, Mmasinachi thanked them wholeheartedly for their kindness and compassion. After much pleading from Nostiti, Mmasinachi found in her heart to forgive, realizing that holding onto anger would only breed more pain. The two families, once strangers, now bound by blood and love, decided to unite as one. In a gesture of gratitude and support, Mr. and Mrs. Clinton set up a business for Mmasinachi and provided her with a better apartment, ensuring that she and her daughters could thrive. Meanwhile, Aunt Glory found love and happiness of her own, getting married and relocating abroad with her husband, embarking on a new chapter in her life. Chioma and Benita's friendship continued to blossom, their bond stronger than ever. They spent time together regularly, alternating between Benita's house and Chioma's, cherishing each moment with their newfound family. As school resumed, Chioma and Benita worked hand in hand, their friendship a source of envy for Sandra and Betty, who decided to distance themselves from Benita. However, Mercy embraced Benita and Chioma, joining their circle of friendship, and together they focused on their studies and building a strong, happy relationship. And so, as the final chapter of their story unfolded, Chioma, Benita, and their families embarked on a journey of love, forgiveness, and new beginnings, their hearts united in the bonds of family and friendship, And as they looked towards the future, filled with hope and promise, they knew that together they could conquer any challenge that came their way, their love and resilience guiding them every step of the way. In Chioma's story, we learn that forgiveness and kindness are powerful forces that can bring people together and heal wounds. Even when someone hurts us, showing forgiveness can lead to unexpected blessings and new friendship. Chioma forgave Benita for her mean behavior, and in return, Benita realized the importance of being kind and understanding. Together, they discovered they were long lost sisters, showing that forgiveness can lead to beautiful reunions and stronger bonds. Additionally, Chioma's mother Mmasinachi showed kindness by helping Benita in her time of need. Even though they were strangers, this act of kindness not only saved Benita's life but also brought their families closer together. So, the lesson is to always be kind and forgiving, even when it's difficult. You never know how your kindness can change someone's life or bring unexpected blessings into your own. Thanks for watching this amazing story about Choma and Benita on African Stories. If you liked it and felt inspired with their journey, please show your support by clicking the like button, sharing with your friends, and leaving a comment below. To see more interesting stories and learn about different cultures, subscribe to African Stories and don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Your support means a lot and helps us bring more stories to you. Until we meet again, stay connected, stay inspired, and keep smiling.